I tell you what's been on my mind? Sick and tired of the 9 to 5 in the city life. Hey darling, we could get out of town, see the beautiful world around, wanna see it.
A quick interruption before the video. I want you guys to stay tuned. If you are one of my loyal viewers, subscribers, stay tuned to the end. I've got some exciting possibilities coming up for you and I, and so I'll share a little bit more. I don't have a whole lot of information, but I'll share what I have at the end of this video. On to the video. Hey everyone, welcome to the Farm and Pastor's Wife. I'm so glad you're here, and welcome to the installment number 2 of my tribute to Drummond, the Pioneer Woman. So if you're new here, what I've been doing, I did last week with Paula Dean. This week I have done a tribute to the Pioneer Woman, Drummond. The last video was a kind of an interruption of my Pioneer Woman tribute because I'm only doing 3 a week. And we've had Vacation Bible School, so it was kind of crazy around here. But I am doing a tribute to cooks that have inspired me throughout my life. It could have been somebody I was watching when I was little. It could have been someone I was watching when I was a young mom. Could have been someone I've been watching recently. Now, the Pioneer Woman takes that as a young mother to now. I have really been intrigued with her. I felt a connection with her because of farm reasons. They have a ranch, we have a farm. I so enjoyed watching her take food out to her family, and it inspired me. I did that several times when the guys were working hard on the farm. I would carry food out and I'd pack it up just so neat like she did, and I loved it. Now let me say, on my last video, which was the entree, today's is the side dish. On the entrees video, I mentioned I went to my closet to look for some of her beautiful, something that looked like a shirt she would wear, and I couldn't find one. I found this one today, which is as close as I can get. I think I have all my pretty flowery tops packed away for some reason. And I did lose weight a year ago, and so I have transitioned away from a lot of my clothes, so that may be where most of them are. I gave a lot of those away. But this is this one. And let me tell you, I was intrigued with her clothes way before she started her line at Walmart. Way before. I remember watching her, and I would Google, where does Drummond get her clothes? And I would and so I've always loved them. But this is as close as I can get today. It's not exactly like her, but, you know, it's close. So anyway, all right, so today we're doing a squash casserole. It is a side dish of hers, and I have squash from the garden. So we're gonna get started. Let me gather, listen, unlike Drummond's kitchen right now, my kitchen is a mess, and I need to do some cleaning up in here before we start this video, or the actual cooking in this video. So I'm going to take a few minutes. You won't even know it because I'm going to cut the camera off. I'm going to clean, come back, and we'll get started. But yeah, I got to clean this kitchen up before I can do anything else. Okay, we'll be right back. Well guys, I took a break from cleaning because I got to thinking, you know, this squash has got to cook. So I'll cook it while I'm cleaning, making sure my mic is on. Yep. And so I decided what I would do is go ahead and get that on. So let me show you what I've done. I have sliced up the squash in 1/4 of an inch approximately slices, you know, good size chunks, but not too big. And her recipe says to chop an onion. I left them in the 1/2 moon sizes. That's totally fine with me. I've got them on a baking dish. Now, I would have cooked this on the stovetop. When I do a squash casserole, I cook my squash on the stovetop. But I'm actually liking this idea of doing it in the oven because you kind of get that roasty taste. And so I'm excited about this. So let me grab the olive oil. Hang on. This is all the olive oil I have left. I may have to substitute with a little bit of avocado oil, but we'll use this up. I'm going to just drizzle it. All right, and so I'm going to take some salt. We're going to salt and pepper it really good. I've already put a little bit on the squash, but we're going to add a little more. All right, and we're going to take a little bit of pepper. I know that looks like a lot, but there's a lot of squash on there. Listen, I will link her recipe in the description. You can go to her link and check it out, and it has full measurements and everything. So I'm just going to take my hands and stir this around a little bit. I've got my oven preheating to 400, and we're going to let it cook for about 25 minutes. All right, so I'm going to stick this in the oven, and I'll see you back when this is done and when the kitchen is clean. They're out of the oven. What I'm going to do now is take them over to the sink, put them in a colander, and let any of the liquids that have started to release from them come out. And I'll meet you back right here. We're going to let these cool just a little bit while we fix the filling. So I'll meet you back right here in just a second. There was a little bit more liquid in there than I had anticipated. And I think one reason doing it in the oven may be slightly better is when I do it on the stovetop, the squash becomes mush. And in the oven, I noticed that they still stayed in their ring. They're just softer to the touch. So I don't know if that's a reason, but that seemed to work. So if you want a more actual piece of squash, doing it in the oven may work very well. I have these beautiful farm eggs that my niece gifted me. I get a lot of questions, if I'm chicken farmers, why do I not have eggs? And if we're chicken farmers, why do we buy chicken? Well, we are on the commercial side. Our chickens are technically not ours, and we are just caring for them and raising them. So that is why. We have to buy our chicken and eggs just like other people do. And we're not allowed to have yard chickens because of cross-contamination. If one was to get a disease and we were to carry it over to the commercial barns, you know, that could be bad and catastrophic. So in here I've put 2 eggs. We're going to go in with 8 ounces of sour cream, which is half of this container. So I'm just going to eyeball that. Flop. I think that looks good right there. We'll kind of round it off. All right, and to this we're going to add in a half a cup of mayonnaise. And we've already salt and peppered the squash, but if you don't think you salt and peppered it enough, by all means, add some right here. All right, let me give this a whisk real quick. Oh, those eggs were so beautiful. Oh my goodness. This is going to be so rich and so decadent. Oh my goodness. All right, I'm going to grab 8 ounces of cheese. Yes, you need to shred your own. I mean, it's better for you if you shred your own because it doesn't have that non-caking agent. I just don't happen to have any right now. And a lot of times I don't, because a lot of times I'm cooking out of convenience and not necessarily. I do a lot of things for health reasons, but some things I just kind of choose my battle on, you know. All right, I think that was about 8 ounces, but I'm just going to add a small handful Can't go wrong with cheese. I don't think you can have too much cheese in a squash casserole. All right. Let me grab the squash and onions. And I drain them out, like I push down on them to kind of squeeze out any extra liquid. And I'm going to give this a good stir. Oh my goodness. This looks amazing. All right. So, in lieu of the Pioneer Woman, I'm using one of her baking dishes. This is a 9x13, 3-quart baking dish. And I am going to transfer this over. I did spray it with some butter spray, or grease it. You can do whatever you want to. Sorry, I know that's loud. I want to take my little scraper here. I want to get out all this goodness because I think this is where the goodness is, right here. Now, what I think would be really good added into this is a Leslie add. I'm not going to do it, but I think it would be really good because I put it in my other squash casserole, and that's a jar of the diced pimentos. Oh, so good. You could put green peppers, whatever your preference is. But we're going to go by her recipe. I do not have any fresh thyme. Her recipe calls for fresh thyme. I do not have any fresh thyme, but I do have some dried that instead of adding it in, I'm just going to sprinkle it right here on top. So, because I don't want to overdo it, so I'm just going to lightly sprinkle some thyme. If I can find it, if I have any. So let me look for that. I'll be back in just a second. So I do have some dried thyme, and since I wasn't really sure, anyway, I don't know how I feel about the thyme, so I'm going to just sprinkle a little bit right here on top. Instead of, it calls for a whole tablespoon of fresh thyme. So I'm just going to sprinkle a little bit right here on top. I mean, that may be half a teaspoon, maybe. Okay, so now we have decreased the temperature in the oven to 350. I'm going to cover this. And I get asked a lot of times about knowing when to cover and when not to cover. Well, if the recipe says cover, then I cover. If it doesn't, I leave it uncovered unless, there's two unlesses. Unless there is something in here I want to soften a bit, like if it was to have raw onions and I wanted the onions to be sure to get softened, then I would cover it for most of the bake time and then uncover it to let it brown on top. Also, the other caveat to that is I would leave it uncovered unless it has a cheese topping. I would still leave it uncovered, but keep an eye on it. And if the cheese topping on top begins to brown too much, or anything, it doesn't have to be cheese. If anything is browning too much before the bake time is finished, then I would cover it at that point. Now that's a little tricky because you've got a hot pan and you're having to try to cover it, but that's what I would do. But as a general rule, if the recipe does not signify whether to cover it or not, I leave it uncovered, with the two exceptions I just told you about. Okay, this is going in a 350-degree oven. We're going to let it stay in there for about 20 minutes. We're going to fix a topping to go on it and then bake it for another 30. So we'll be back in just a second. So while I always have to check and make sure my microphone's on. So while our squash casserole is baking, we're going to get started on the topping, because it's going to actually bake halfway through, add the topping, and then bake the rest of the way. Now you're going to need 1.5 sleeves of Ritz crackers. Now I'm going to start with the half a sleeve because I can't necessarily crunch it up in the package. So I'm going to have to just eyeball half. Woo! Did y'all see those go flying? And they break up super easy. Now, I used to put these in a bag and just do it in a Ziploc bag. But hey, let me show you. Since I'm using this whole sleeve, I can do this in this one. I just start crunching them up right here in the actual sleeve itself. I do the first few crackers, toss them in, start squeezing up the other crackers. Ritz break up super duper easy. And you're not messing up a bag, and I did make a mess with the half over there. All right, now what I like to do is just take my hands and see if I can find any big pieces that didn't get crunched up. Make sure they're all good and done in there. Ritz crackers are super buttery. My hands are kind of greasy now from doing this, but we are going to actually add some more butter. But first, we're going to add some Parmesan cheese. We've got 1/4 cup of just the powdered Parmesan cheese. You can use the you can use shredded if you like, whatever you prefer. And I'm just going to mix that up with my hands. Give my hands a quick rinse. All right. So I've got here about 3 tablespoons of melted butter. We're just going to pour this right in here. And I'm going to take a spoon and stir that up. Now, as soon as our squash casserole comes out, we're going to top it with this beautiful buttery, cheesy, crackery mixture that's going to be delicious. It is absolutely going to knock our socks off. I already know it. Like, I've never done this recipe. Oh, that's another thing. This is one of her recipes I've never done. Like I said, I'm paying tribute to the cook, not the recipe. So, I don't know that I'm going to like every recipe that I do, but we're going to try it. And so, all right. And I know in the instance of Paula Deen, I used one of her recipes that was her daughter-in-law's. And yes, that wasn't Paula's recipe, but it came through Paula's approval and out of her cookbook. So we are, and I don't mean her approval to me to do it. I mean the approval that it took to go into her cookbook. And so my tribute is to the person, not necessarily the recipes. I'm just doing some of either their recipes or something that came out of their cookbook or something to pay tribute to them. Okay, so we're going to wait for that to come out. I'll bring you back as soon as it does. I'm going to wrap up the other half for Levi and Judabug. They love Ritz crackers. The only thing I'm going to, I mean, they'll eat it just plain, but let me tell you what they like. We call it spray cheese. It's the cheese in a can. You know, it's not really cheese, but hey, those boys love that on some Ritz crackers. So I think I may have a sleepover soon and do that. Okay, everyone, it smells delicious, and that thyme actually on top is beautiful. Of course, we're going to cover it up, but it's also very fragrant. It smells heavenly. So, okay, we're going to put these crackers, this beautiful topping on top. Now this time I'm going to leave it uncovered because I do want the Ritz crackers to kind of get toasty brown and golden brown. However, if they begin to brown too much, we will put the tin foil back on. And I'm using every last bit of it. And we'll give it a little spread around. Bryant loves squash casserole, and I think he's going to super duper love this. I think he's going to like the fact that the squash is a little, and I don't mean firm, but I mean it kept its shape. It's not mush. And then he's going to love the cheese in the cracker crumbs. I think he's going to love everything about this casserole, plus the creaminess that the sour cream brings. Now I get asked a lot of time, if I don't like sour cream, what can I use? Well, I don't want to tell you a substitute for this one, but maybe a Greek yogurt, just a plain Greek yogurt. You could increase the mayonnaise, and but truly, you will not taste. When I cook with sour cream, now I don't know about this one because I haven't tasted it, but for the most part, when I cook with sour cream, it's not like I'm eating a straight spoonful of sour cream. It takes on the flavors of what it's being cooked with. Now, I don't know that to be true about this one because I have never made this, so we'll see in a little bit. All right, it is going in a 350-degree oven, now uncovered, and we're going to leave it for about 35 minutes. So we'll be right back. So Bryant is on his way home for the taste test. Actually, that's not what he's coming home for. I'm just going to grab him while he's here to do a taste test for me. But I am going to scoop out just a very little bit of this. If you remember back to the entree of the Pioneer Woman's, I did a chicken spaghetti. Today I've done this chicken casserole, and tomorrow's will be a dessert of the Pioneer Woman. So what I'm going to do is we have 13 folks getting baptized, and we're going to have a meal after church. So I'm going to remake another chicken spaghetti. Isaac devoured the one I made the other day, so I am going to make another one. I'm going to keep all of this. I'm just going to give Bryant enough for a taste test and then keep the rest covered up in the refrigerator. I'll grab it out Sunday morning, reheat it, and we'll be taking, and then I'll take her dessert. Whatever dessert I do of the Pioneer Woman's, we'll take it and to church too. So every dish I take to church on Sunday will be a Pioneer Woman dish. So anyway, I just thought that'd be kind of cool this week since I am paying tribute to the Pioneer Woman. And I do know she goes to church and she loves church potluck. So with that being said, I'm going to scoop out Bryant just a little bit. And I may taste it because it's pretty carb friendly with the exception of the topping. So if I can just get just a little bit of the topping or none, I can at least try the casserole inside and see how I like it. So I'm going to scoop it out. He should be here in just a little bit. Look who came in for the taste test.
Yep, I've just got in. I've been to the hospital, had somebody having surgery, and so she's got a taste test. She is made a squash casserole, one of my favorite dishes. I love squash casserole. But
I've never made this squash casserole.
Oh, it's different.
The squash, I think the main difference is the squash has more integrity than it does in my squash casserole. It's not as mushy.
Yeah, that's correct. It's good. Got a good crunch to it. Well, it's not really a crunch, but it's got some texture.
Yeah, it's just the texture of the, you know.
Did you not boil it?
I roasted it in the oven.
That's really good. Have you tried it? Mm-mm. You want to try it?
Let me get my bite. I'll try to not get too many breadcrumbs.
Hey, we're guarding our carbs, so she's trying not to get many breadcrumbs. Got a great flavor. Got a really good flavor. Now, the one that she normally makes has pimentos and a lot of mayonnaise, which is a really good one.
But this is the squash. This is the star.
The squash is the star. That's a good way to put it right there.
Yes. Really good.
That's really good.
It is really good.
I could probably eat the whole casserole.
If there's anything I would do different, maybe, and I don't know. I just took a little bitty small bite. What do you think? The cheese is plenty, or does it need more cheddar cheese?
It could use a little more.
I think it needs a little more cheddar cheese,
but not a whole lot.
Yeah. Just in that one little bite I took. So maybe somewhere else in the casserole there's going to be plenty of cheese, but
that's really good.
That's good. It's keeper, and it's going to church with us on Sunday.
Hey, and guess whose recipe it is?
Pioneer Woman.
The Pioneer Woman.
Yep. So, all right, guys, don't go anywhere. I'm going to come back and tell you about some fun things and exciting things I've got in the works. Okay, so I wanted to talk to you guys about an opportunity that I'm looking into. I have seen YouTubers all over have an exclusive account somewhere for their subscribers who want either more content or more in-depth content and so forth. I think some of the stream platforms are like Patreon. I know that name. There's a couple of other ones I know. I'm looking into several of those. Not so much where I can give you more cooking content, but maybe more in a place where we could do more Bible study, more lifestyle stuff, more things than what would be on my YouTube channel. And it would be for those who are just genuinely loyal. I don't know a better word to use than loyal, but who are sincerely interested. We could talk about health. We could talk about beauty. We could talk about lifestyle. We could do Bible studies. It would just be a place for, if you wanted extra stuff from me, then we could do that. I could actually email and do some actually contacting you guys. It is so hard for me to answer every single comment. I do read them, but it is so hard for me to give a personal answer. A lot of times I'm reading the comments in places where I shouldn't be reading. And I can't sit down there and type, but I can heart it. So so that's, and I get comments not just on my current video, but people are watching videos from way back and commenting. So I'm getting comments not just on my current video, but all of my videos that are being watched at that time. So it is almost impossible for me to answer everybody. I do read them, and I try, if there's a question, I try my best to answer it. I am behind on my comments, so don't fuss. But I do, if there is a specific question, I try my best to answer it, reply to it. But, and Bryant is actually helping me some to respond. So, with that being said, I would dedicate a certain time of day to be on this other platform that would allow me to communicate and maybe send an encouraging message every day. Not necessarily to you personally, but we could do more personal things, if that makes sense. Does that make sense? Anyway, so just be looking forward to that or towards that while I do some research in the background, while I do some seeing, you know, I want this to be genuine. I want it to be safe. I want it to be a safe place where we can communicate. We can talk about scriptural things, which oftentimes leads to controversial things. So I want it to be a very safe place for all of us. So, with that being said, just look forward to that. I will let you know as soon as it all comes together. Okay, everyone, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. This squash casserole is delicious. You got to try it. All right, we'll see you next time right here on The Farm and Pastor's Wife. Remember, if the grease is hot enough, you can fry anything. Bye, y'all.